Welcome to Busy Bee Woodworking. Today we are going to show the assembly of the Wen Model MB500 Mobile Base. And here is a shot of what the kit is plus the tools that you need. Tool-wise, a tape measure as well as a wrench and socket in the sizes of 10mm, 13mm, and 17mm. Okay, so now the first step, we are going to start from the outside of the corner bracket and insert what is the M6x50 hex bolt through the wheel bracket, the wheel, and then the wheel spacer. And then you attach the M6 lock nut from the inside of the bracket and tighten with the 10mm wrench. Make sure though you don't over tighten this nut as it will impact the wheel mobility. Now take the front corner bracket and screw the support foot from the bottom of the foot flange. We'll adjust the height later, but then you'll want to come back with the M10 nut and tighten it down using a 17mm wrench. Now to assemble the swivel plates, we'll want to work from the outside front corner bracket and insert the M6x70 hex bolt through the lower hole from the caster flange. And the swivel plate, then you're going to secure it with an M6 lock nut from the other side of the caster flange and tighten it using the 10mm wrench. Now you're going to want to check to make sure the swivel plate is able to swivel upwards but not downwards. Now from the bottom of the swivel plate, you want to insert the swivel caster through the swivel plate and the caster lock washer, and then secure with an M10 flange nut and tighten the nut using a 17mm wrench. Now when it comes to assembling the foot levers, it's a little tricky. There's a lot going in here. So we're going to start from this outside of the front corner bracket with the M8x70 hex bolt. And we're going to put it through the upper hole of that caster flange. Now you're going to want to add a lever spacer, then the foot lever, and then another lever spacer. Now if you pivot the bolt slightly outward, you can squeeze in that final lever spacer easier, and then you can move it back with inside the caster flange. And then you're going to attach a lever lock washer and an M10 flange nut from the outside of the caster flange and tighten it down using a 13mm wrench. Now we can start assembling the actual mobile base and its footprint. Now you're going to want to bring the rails in here and put 2 bolts onto one side and 2 onto the other. Now you're going to make this the measurement slightly larger than the footprint of the tool you're going. And after I put it in, before tightening down, I just made sure it was going to come to the right dimensions, and then I continued to tighten it down. Now, to tighten this down, we are going to use the 10mm wrench. Now, if you are using this for a larger piece of equipment, you're going to want to actually assemble this around that piece of equipment so you can move it underneath that piece. Mine, I was able to pivot into position, so I didn't have to worry about that. Also, you notice the footprint that I'm making this into, I did not need to use a combination of the short and the long rails. I just actually needed to use the one set. So if you do need to do that, you will have to make a slight adjustment here. Also, where I was bringing this in, the stationary wheel bolt was going to come in right where I needed the rail to be attached. So I just removed that bolt, and that way I could extend that bolt through this rail, and then it wouldn't impede on where I needed it properly positioned. And as we had this mobile base coming all together, we just needed to finish by adding that final 2 rails to where the foot pedal bracket was. Now that my base was completely assembled, I just put it on the floor to make sure that the wheels were all working properly. And now at this point, I was able to set the support feet to the proper distance to the concrete floor so I could hold it into place. As you can see here, with the wheels engaged in the lock position, without those feet at the proper level, the mobile base will still move. So this is where you have to come back and readjust those feet. Now once you get it into the proper position, you'll want to tighten it down with that 17mm wrench. All that was left was to get the mobile base underneath what I had here, a 14-inch bandsaw, and we just slid it into position. Now we're left with a mobile tool that can be locked and unlocked as needed. Woohoo!